Are you open to talking about your near-death experiences at
Of
all?
course, yeah.
Um, I think you said the first one was you're around nine, was that right?
Yeah, around 9, 10 years old.
Nine, 10, okay. Was that something that happened that you forgot, and then the later one, your early 20s, kind of made you remember it, or how'd that all unfold?
So I remembered what had happened,
Okay.
the events of it, but I didn't remember the actual experience and the things that had
Oh,
transpired there.
I see.
When I came out of it, um, all of the patterns that led me into that experience stayed in place. And there was a great deal of blame that was happening on why this
Mm,
near death experience had happened.
hmm
So a lot of it was my fault. Um, my dad was blaming my mom. My mom was blaming my dad, and they were both also blaming me for why this had happened.
mm,
I had really, really bad asthma growing up in Detroit and being
mm,
in a very stressful environment. It's induced by the stress.
mm,
And my mom was a chain smoker as well. And she had also invited lots of men into our lives that were very, very abusive.
mm,
So my body would respond to all this stress and it would just start to shut down.
mm.
And so I was having this really bad asthma attack. And my mom did not want my dad to know about it because they're going to use this as some sort of legal leverage to get more or less child support, more
Right.
custody, whatever it is.
hmm
Um, so she had left me alone and she had left me with a friend. And I remember the last thing that she said was, whatever happens, he doesn't call his dad. So there was just big conflict between the two. And I woke up in the hospital. I don't remember how long after, and I was hospitalized for a couple weeks.
mm,
And while I was in the hospital, of course, they're given all these instructions. The smoking has to stop.
hmm
They were acutely aware of all the abuse that was happening in there, but, what resources does the hospital or the doctors have to really investigate this or change this?
Right.
So when I came out, it just went right back to where it was. In fact, it might have even gotten even worse because now it had come up to the light. So a
Mm,
lot of my memories of the actual experience got suppressed very quickly because I was right back into survival mode. So it was very easy to forget a lot about it. I remembered what happened, but I didn't
hmm
remember the experience that I had when it was happening.
I see. Yeah. And that was the one at the earlier one you just
Yeah, that was the one I was when I was about 9 or 10 years old.
9 or 10. Okay. Um, can you share the one that was around 22 or your early 20s?
Sure. Yeah, so at this point, I was training martial arts. I was
Mm,
doing like jujitsu, Muay Thai. I was competing as well.
hmm
I had all this really big emotion, go figure. And I had no idea what to do with it. It was all deeply suppressed.
Yeah.
So the ways that I was expressing it were through music. I was playing
Mm.
a lot of music. I was a drummer,
Oh, cool.
and I would play in like punk rock bands and like hardcore bands. So I play so hard and loud. It was all the raw emotion that I had just coming out.
Yeah.
And so then I started doing martial arts as well. Well, one of the things that happens in these gyms is infections go around, like
Yeah.
staph infections. So at one point, I had really bad eczema all over my body as well. That was
hmm
another thing that happened with the asthma.
hmm
And so I got a staph infection and I didn't have health insurance and I didn't have any resources, any money or anything like that to get medical attention.
hmm
And so I also just didn't know what to do. And the staph just spread through my whole body like
Oh no.
quickly because I had so many open sores.
hmm
Eventually, I went to the doctor. I just went to the nearest doctor's office and said, I had just look at me and they could see the staph all over me. And I was like, I don't have any money. I don't have any insurance. What can you do? And they said, come back here right now. And they took care of me.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So they loaded me up with antibiotics, which took care of the staph for the most part, but it also annihilated my immune system.
Mm,
And so then a couple months later, I don't remember which one came first. I got another staph infection at the
mm,
gym again. And this one mutated like almost immediately into MRSA. And it was bad. And so I went to a doctor much, much sooner
hmm
and the infection was, I mean, it was life-threatening. But that wasn't what really got me, was they gave me another round of antibiotics.
Uh,
And so my immune system was just annihilated. And then I got pneumonia. And I was on my deathbed in my room alone
mm,
for weeks and barely made it out of this. Um, I was just gasping for air. Again, no insurance, no money, no ability to do anything with this. And I was also drinking a lot at this time because that
mm,
was how I was soothing a lot of this pain.
right.
And, prescription painkillers were everywhere at that point. So I was also taking those. And you combine the pneumonia, the antibiotics, and the drinking and the painkillers. And
Mm,
that was the last time I was really ever drinking or doing anything like that.
right. Wow. Um, did you, I guess, how would you describe the spiritual component of that, or just the um, how that transformed, or just it was, did you, what was the experience of the near death, I guess? Just like, I know the physical end, did you notice anything happening or you reflected back on and went, whoa, that's kind of what was happening, not just on a physical level, but some of the other levels?
Oh, of course. Yeah, this is what really sparked my interest in understanding this aspect of the human experience is for weeks I was in this transient state of consciousness and an altered state of consciousness. Like I was having experiences, but it wasn't here in like being who I am.
Yeah.
And so I started having these repetitive, lucid dreams or experiences where it was almost always at the exact same time every night.
Mm,
And these series of surgeries were being performed on me. So I would lay, like usually it was in like a setting like a cave.
mm,
It was dark and dank and slightly damp, and you could smell the moisture in the cave. And there would be like one of those procedure lights that were right above me, so I couldn't really see very well.
mm-hmm,
And there would be a series of, 4 or 5 figures standing around the bed, and they would be performing an
mm,
actual surgery. One of the common ones was every bone in my body would be broken. My entire body would be shattered and fragmented. And
mm,
every piece of me would be cleaned and accounted for and organized. And then it would be reassembled.
mm,
Some of the other ones were my chest would be wide open and
yeah.
all of the gunk and all of the pathways, which was, to the best that I understand it, was all the emotion and all the residual pain that was stored in my body. They were going in with these cleaners and just cleaning all of that out. And it was allowing me to feel again and for things to actually come through for me to connect with my body again.
Yeah.
And it was also allowing me to see things totally differently.
Mm,
So for like 2 weeks, this was just constant. And then after that experience, once I said, okay, that was really intense, terrifying, and jostling. And I stopped drinking. I stopped all the medications. I started really taking my health much more seriously.
mm-hmm,
The dreams continued. So I
mm.
kept having these dreams every single night at
Oh,
the
wow.
exact same time. And I mean, just like a series of synchronicities and things were happening. And I had a roommate at that time, and I wasn't talking to him about any of this because that's what we do when we're going through traumas. We don't talk to anybody about it.
Yeah.
And he's like, man, something fucky's going on. Excuse my language.
That's all right.
Um, something's going on here
Uh,
around, 3:30 in the morning. I'm starting to see owls outside. There's always weird noises and all that stuff. And I'm like, okay, I was thinking I was just dreaming, but so we started talking about it, and he started noticing around that exact same time there was definitely something going on.
mm-hmm.
And we could write it off as, two paranoid middle, early
Oh,
20s people just having whatever, but I really think something was going on there.
yeah, yeah.
And this is what sparked all of my curiosity. And then I found this was a pattern that people had gone through, this exact identical experience all throughout the ages.
Mm-hmm,
Um, Throughout so many cultures, this was like an initiation style experience.
mm-hmm,
And so I got super curious about it. And one of the experiences I had, I was involved with all these natives. all of these medicine people,
Mm.
and they were chanting and singing and they were helping me through. It was like a ceremony. And so I started talking to my grandmother on my dad's side.
Mm-hmm.
We rarely, I have like no connection with really anybody in my family,
Mm-hmm.
but I was getting ready to move to Chicago. And so I wanted to talk to her a little bit. And I was asking her about her ethnicity. Because I've asked her a few times and she says, Mijo, I'm American and you're American too.
Mm.
And I'm like, you're clearly not American. You barely speak English. Look at your skin, look at your hair. Where are you from?
Mm.
What is our ethnicity?
Sure.
And she would always say, I'm from Texas. I'm from Texas, from the valley, right by the border. And so I kept asking her, and I started going to church with her. That was the way to connect with her a little bit. And
Mm-hmm.
she starts telling me little stories. And she's telling me that we were native Mexicans. That's what our family was.
Mm.
And that her parents had to flee from ethnic persecution
Mm.
and they immigrated into the States illegally. So that explains the shame of the ethnicity and always saying I'm American. She doesn't want it to be well known because one, you get persecuted, two, there's legal consequences.
Sure.
And she also said that throughout all the generations, we've had a lineage of healers, and we come from our ancestors were native healers.
Mm.
And that through every generation, somebody, at least one person, has carried it. And this was the only time that I can remember her ever saying anything nice to me. She said, Mijo, you're the healer. You're going to carry it. And so that right there, that I mean, I didn't think much of it at that time. I had to
Yeah.
really reflect on it and unpack it. But between those near-death experiences and the things that I was experiencing in that altered state of consciousness, that, and then, of course, what I was really learning through the mythology and the symbolism through, of course, Jungian psychology,
Mm-hmm.
this just really inspired me. And, it was almost like there was a path that had been laid out, and I just had to rise up and become the person who could walk it.